Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the quarantine film series. I'm your host, Kibir Segel, coming to you live from the ATL, Atlanta, where I'm quarantining with my family. Mom, I need the Wi-Fi, so if you can please, give me the full bandwidth. Thank you. So look, we started this broadcast, as you know, in earnest back in March. We've done almost 130 episodes now, conversations with creative individuals. And the mission here is to put the spotlight back on the artists, the filmmakers, the authors. These are the people that create the content and the stories that challenge, provoke us, and entertain us. So subscribe to all the social media so you get notified as to who will be next. If you have a question, drop it in the comment field. We will get the artists to opine to your question and let us know where you're watching from. City, state, country, counties. I love counties. I want to learn the geography of the world. So extra points for counties. All right. So that's what's going down here. We have a very special show, incredible filmmaker, someone who I know. It's nice to actually do this show because you can kind of catch up with people who you've met in your life, friends you even travel with in this case. So this filmmaker is an award-winning trilingual film director. Trilingual means she can speak 3 languages in case you don't speak trilingual. And she's a screenwriter known for emotional storytelling. And in 2019, she wrote and directed a dark comedy, Freeze, which we will talk about all the success she's been seeing with that. She's also had a bit of a commercial career, directing commercials for Warner Brothers, Google, just top flight brands all across the board. She's received her master's in documentary filmmaking, which is kind of the point here, right? So she's really good at that. From Columbia University, she studied at University of California, Santa Barbara. She's been all over the film circuit, and now she joins us here live on the Quarantine Film Series. So let's welcome to the show the incredible auteur, conceptual artist, Maya Albanese. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Tell me first, where are you broadcasting from, and how has the quarantine affected you?
Well, I am in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. And obviously, like everyone, I'm not having exactly the year I thought I was going to have. I think it's started out fairly devastating year for filmmakers, especially filmmakers like me who have a film on the festival circuit, because suddenly all of our premieres were canceled, and we're lacking that sort of payoff experience of meeting people and getting to be in a big theater with our films. But on the other hand, because I'm a multi-hyphenate filmmaker and I am a professional screenwriter as well, I've been able to spend less time traveling and on sets and a little more time ideating about my next projects and screenwriting. And so that's actually been a kind of a blessing for me to read, write, and watch more and do less kind of moving around. My schedule is always really crazy. And the slowdown of pace I found actually kind of refreshing, despite, of course, all the other awful things going on in the world that came with it. I think for artists, there is a way to embrace this time for the better.
Got it. Elizabeth in Johannesburg is already asking you, what tips can you give me to maintain creativity in the quarantine? So what advice do you have for people who are trying to stay creative? Should they structure their time? What do you think? What works best for you?
I mean, it is really hard to structure your time. Everybody's different. Like if first figuring out like when's your most productive creative time of the day, like is it at night, is it in the morning, and kind of like creating that sacred, deep creative focus time during that period, and then turning off your devices and other things going on during that stretch. But it is hard. I think at the beginning of the shutdown here, like most people, it was really hard to focus, and I honestly didn't get that much done. I think we were all kind of in survival mode, trying to figure out what our lives would look like. And then once I got kind of used to it, then I was able to establish more of a routine. But for me, honestly, I think reading and watching things is huge. Whenever I feel like I can't sit and write, or I have writer's block, or I'm frustrated about, another festival canceled or something, I'll buy a new book and read it, or I'll, binge watch a show. Or the thing I've had time to do during quarantine, which has really been inspirational, is to create a rewatch list. So I've watched about 40 movies that I saw, let's say before I was a filmmaker. So up to the age of 20 that I had watched, then loved when I was younger. I rewatched all those films, from some of my idol directors that inspired me to make films. And it's amazing the different perspective you have as an adult or as now a filmmaker, how different that is. And that's the kind of thing that maybe I wouldn't have had as much time to do before. So I think continuing to consume things that inspire you while you're creating things can really help you use the moments when you're feeling less creative still in a productive way.
Sure. What are some of those movies, maybe 3 of those movies you've rewatched?
Oh, I just rewatched one last night. Well, some of my idol directors that inspired me, which the dark comedy I made this year has like twinges of that mixed genre going on, are like Terry Gilliam, Darren Aronofsky, and David Lynch. So I've rewatched a lot of like all of Lynch's original films. Last night I watched Black Swan, and yeah, I loved Brazil and Adventures of Baron Munchausen were 2 of my favorite movies growing up. So love Terry Gilliam's earlier stuff. And I think when you watch those older films of very well-known directors, it's really cool to see like where they started, because I'm like in that phase of my career now. So yeah, it's just really interesting to see like when they had less money or when they were on their first, second, or third film, like what they were doing, and how that set the path for the rest of their career.
Sure. Well, let's talk about your career and your dark comedy Freeze. Why did you want to get involved with this project? Because, you know, any film takes a substantial amount of your life that you pour into it. So why this one, and why did this speak to you?
That's an easy answer. Freeze is a dark comedy about a woman who turns 35 and gets dumped by the love of her life, and then goes to freeze her eggs and has a series of misadventures during the process of egg freezing. And, you know, I just turned 35 this year. That gives you a sense of how relative it is to my own life. And I really sat down and wrote that film as a total catharsis onto the page of just everything that was happening in my own life and in my friends' lives and female crew members I work with. You know, most of us are 30-something women who haven't had children yet and are facing all kinds of pressures. And at times it really felt like a comic farce or a dark comedy, like my actual life. So I kind of just wrote what was true to my life and true to my female experience in this decade, and put it on the page, and kind of didn't even know if I would actually end up making it, because it wasn't something I wrote to make money and then the road I went on from the first person I showed the script to today was unexpected and remarkable. And I'm so grateful for it. And it was truly like the best experience of my life, let alone the best filmmaking experience. So, yeah.
Yeah. Isabel is asking, so did you ever have any issues being so vulnerable? I mean, it just seems like if it's based on kind of what you're going through, how do you deal with that? Or maybe it's you sort of jump into it and have a leap of faith. So how do you get comfortable with being vulnerable about what's going on in your life and basing something on your own actual life?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it's to each your own, but like, I don't really know how to be anything but vulnerable. I feel like that sort of comes hand in hand with being an artist, and I've always been that way. I'm kind of hard on my sleeve. And I think, so like, that's just how I roll as an artist. But on the other hand, I think when you're making your first films, like, especially when you're writing scripts on spec, so nobody's paying you to write the script. You know, you don't know if it's going to get made. You sure as hell better be writing something that you believe in, that you connect to, that you're passionate about, that makes you feel good to write it. Because like I said, you know, you're not getting paid to write it. So I think that your best work early on in your life inevitably comes from the things that are happening in your own life. Obviously, not everything you make has to be purely autobiographical, but I mean, I think even filmmakers at the height of their career are still making films that somehow touch upon at least a theme that they can deeply relate to. Otherwise, you just never get through it. I mean, writing a feature is like writing a novel and a half, and making a film is an endless life process, it seems. So passion and connection to the issue is essential.
Walk us through some of the craft of making Freeze. What did you shoot it? What did you shoot it on in terms of the camera? What did you edit in? These are some of the nerdy questions that people like to hear. So nerd out on us on the technical side if you can.
Oh, cool. I rarely get asked these kinds of questions. Well, I'm definitely a camera geek, so appreciate that question. I was very privileged to shoot this on Panavision C-Series lenses. I love Panavision glass. And we shot on an Alexa Mini and that set of lenses. We had a Steadicam operator who did things like the parent scene where they're walking through. Obviously, we had a dolly. Yeah, and I was really blessed to work with the cinematographer, Laura Mirians. She's incredibly talented and has shot a bunch of my commercials as well. And we have a great rapport, both personally and professionally. So that really helped. And she's also in the target audience of Freeze. So we could both, actually like 50% of our crew was women in the target age of Freeze. So it was like very interesting to have people making it and shooting it who also could relate to the story so much.
And I got to ask about the music. So how did you think about complementing what was on the screen with what people hear, and what was the music process like, and walk us through that?
Yeah, so I come from a music background before filmmaking, and my parents are music people. And so I have a lot of respect for the art of composing. And yeah, I think one of the reasons that I was initially attracted to filmmaking is because it merged my former life as a musician and my life as a visual artist and my life as a journalist and storyteller, and all those things kind of went together, and filmmaking was everything in one. So one of my favorite parts of the process is music. Even with my commercials, I always try to be involved in picking the music, even though that's kind of rare for the director, just because I enjoy it so much. So with this film, it was really important to me as a dark satire genre for there to be juxtaposition sometimes in the type of and tone of the music with the visuals we're seeing, to make it clear like that this was a dream that was broken. I think, one of the things we led with, my composer Ariel Marx is so talented, and I love her. And, I knew right away that I wanted female vocals. I wanted the sound of a little girl's music box that was distorted and broken, and I wanted strings instruments. And so we kind of worked with the palette of those instruments. And then I was obviously like really inspired by music from some films like Tim Burton films and Gilliam films and other films that have this like haunting quality to them. And I didn't want it to be like a straight up horror score, but I wanted the music to cue you to the fact that like, this is really funny, but this is also really messed up. So yeah, the music was such a fun process, and it was done just her and me basically made the score for it.
Got it. Icho in Osaka, Japan says, you're a very talented writer. What advice do you have on capturing or writing authentic dialogue? How do you capture authentic or generate authentic dialogue? It's tough. I mean, I struggle with this too, but maybe you have some tips on how to make it pop from the page to the screen.
It is really hard. Screenwriting, I think, is honestly the most challenging thing I've ever done, but I've always been into a challenge, so I love it. But it's really hard because you're always having a goal when you're sitting at the page of what you want to convey. So then you're often forcing to convey that thing without realizing like maybe that's not how people actually talk, I just think it depends on what genre you're writing. So I wrote an episode of a show this year that was a comedy drama. And that one, like the dialogue had to be really believable. And the exchange between the two characters constantly had to feel like people talking in real life. So that, funny enough, that was actually more challenging for me because I'm really into satire and I like overblown caricatures, and I like making characters that are a little overblown or stilted because I think that's funny. And I think it's like characters making fun of themselves in a way that you get a pass sometimes for actually using like ridiculous or on the nose dialogue. So in Freeze, my inspiration was Voltaire's Candide, which is one of my favorite novels of all time. And when I wrote Freeze, I had just come from seeing the opera version of Candide. And Candide is about, a sunny optimist who just wants to live his best life, travels the world and gets pissed on at every corner. So I kind of wanted just it to be that. I wanted each person that Joy, the lead character, encounters to be kind of like a caricature of a woman navigating a world run by men. And I think like in the genre and tone of Freeze, I got away with having dialogue that was a little more just a little more heightened and silly in a way that, if I was doing a grounded comedy drama, I wouldn't. So I guess that's all to say, like, study your genre that you're writing and know what the lines are within that genre, and then read it aloud I oftentimes read my screenplays aloud, or I'll do a table read if you can, but you can't always read in silence on a page and actually know that when it comes out of the actor's mouth, it's going to not sound awkward.
Right. Exactly. So where can people find Freeze, and where can they find you? Let's get your social media up there as well so people can see where to find you. There it is, right on cue. Where can people find Freeze? How can people experience it?
Well, if you know, it's funny, 2020 is like sort of a blessing and a curse for film festivals, because although like a third of festivals are canceled and lots of things are in upheaval, on the other hand, never have films, especially short form films, been more accessible to like anyone, because Freeze is playing at like 20 virtual festivals. And so all you have to do is log on to, let me think, what's one of the next festivals coming up? Montana Film Festival is coming up soon. We're playing there. Like, you just have to log on and buy a ticket and you can watch from the comfort of your home. Whereas it used to be like, if you wanted to see films playing at Sundance, you had to travel to Park City. So we're kind of living in like a time where it's never been more accessible to see a film like Freeze that hasn't been picked up by a network yet. So we're continuing to play the festival circuit. Like I said, I think we have like 10 screenings coming up. We're still waiting to hear from other festivals. We just got a distribution deal in the rest of world as well as North America with 2 really awesome companies. And so I'm like very excited to see kind of what that does for it. Shorts are the Wild West. Nobody used to buy shorts. They were just an artist medium and something fun that we got to see at festivals. And suddenly, with the realization that a lot of female and diverse talent is making films in short film tracks, I think there's been like an increased attention looking towards short form content to find emerging talent. And then in addition, people's attention spans are shorter. So that's all to say, on my Instagram page is where I post every upcoming screening of the film, virtual screening where you could see it there. And then hopefully, because we've distribution now, it'll go somewhere else where it'll live, more permanently for people to download it and watch it.
Cool. So yeah, definitely check this out if you're watching at home. Check out her incredible films. Check out our website, Instagram, subscribe so you get notified as to what the great Maya Albanese is up to. What are you up to next?
That's always a loaded question for a director.
I know.
Because, what was next is constantly changing based on what's happening in the world. I've written a feature film that I'm really excited about, but it's pretty wild, Gilliam-esque, and, has lots of people in rooms and things that maybe won't fly immediately to shoot. So, but I'm also, I'm going to be shopping a show that's a spinoff from Freeze, which I'm really excited about. And I just signed with new reps across my entire career in commercials and screenwriting and narrative directing. So I'm actually working. I just finished shooting a television commercial campaign, which was really exciting, on a real set, back in action. The shoots are happening. And I'm getting sent scripts and reading and just trying to figure out what feature I'll direct, which I'm so excited to do when the time is right and it's safe to do it.
Totally. Stanley at the Savannah School of Art and Design asks, what advice do you have for filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers, to break into the commercial world, to make commercials?
Yeah, the bulk of my work is commercial directing at this point. It's only going to be part of my work going forward. I'm definitely, aiming for screenwriting and narrative directing as the main focus, but I kind of fell into it. I started as a documentary filmmaker. As Kabir mentioned, I got a master's in documentary filmmaking. I made 3 documentaries, and then I started getting hired to direct brand sponsored documentaries and branded content. And I was like, oh, I like this because the budgets are healthier. You can use more toys. And then suddenly I, started directing commercials. So I kind of like fell into it gradually. And it took me, like 4 years to get to the point where I would be hired to direct like a legitimate commercial, something like that. I think people underestimate just how difficult it is to break into commercials and how competitive it is. Directing commercials is so fun. I love doing it. It's, like I said, you get to work with the best technicians, work with cool brands, and tell short form stories. Whereas we all know, like, directing a feature is a huge chunk of your time in your life. I get to direct. I've directed, deep drama. I've directed silly comedy. In commercials, I've done all the genres. So I would just say if you want to be a commercial director, start making commercials like for a little bit of money and or on spec, no money, for friends of yours with startup companies who have cool products or brands. Like you got to make a commercial reel. And rather than just like make up a fake commercial on spec, I would recommend like making a commercial for an actual product that's launching, but just know that you're gonna have to be scrappy the first, couple times and make something look like it was shot with a lot of money that wasn't. But yeah, you don't get hired until you have a reel. So you got to build that reel.
Question here. What do you mean by short? Because Shirley's saying, is your short more than the 60-second videos you can find on your website? So Freeze, how long is it actually?
Oh, yeah. On my website is the film trailer, which is 60 seconds long. And that's the only publicly available piece of Freeze right now because we have distribution. We can't publicly post the short film online. The entire film is like 14 minutes long. And like I said, on my website and on my Instagram, I'll be posting every festival it's gotten into. I think I need to update my website for that because we've gotten into like 7 more festivals since I last updated my website. But like I said, if you can log on to a digital virtual festival, you can pay like $10 and watch a shorts block that freezes in. That would be my recommendation because like you'll get to see other cool films too and support the festivals during this really difficult year when we all want the festivals to stay alive.
Totally. Cool. Maya, thanks so much for joining us. Let's put her social media up on the page one more time. There it is, MayaAlbanese.com. Check her out on social, subscribe. Be the first to know on the film festivals, on our new projects. And I've actually traveled. We went to Cuba together, Maya and I, many moons ago. So I can attest she's a really, really compelling and fascinating mind. So please subscribe to all her stuff. So that's it for the broadcast. We have more stuff coming up. Please just subscribe to my socials. You get notified. We have a few more this weekend. And take care of the music, take care of the art because it takes care of us. Stay safe, everyone.